Hello and welcome to the MPCA show brought to you by Bendigo Bank. We've had a reshuffling of the positions here. AJ's moved from the left to the right and we've got a special guest, mate.
We do. The Wolf's gone. He's obviously on a winery tour or something like that. Maybe he's joined Vossi at the cricket. He's been active on social media today. But
He's flying out, man.
We've got the Bonio coach, Jace Albers, and a man that does frequent RPP a fair bit. Jace, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Kingy, and thanks for putting me a spot away from you. I was a bit worried that I was going to look a little bit short or not get on the camera, so I appreciate that.
That's why I've shuffled to the right. Then obviously we'll go down in height.
Yeah, we've got a bit of a babushka doll theme going on here. We just take one out.
Might go
and
down in
yeah.
intelligence as well. Maybe
I reckon up might be. I think
thanks,
so.
Thanks, Kingy. I'm glad I'm here. Appreciate that.
It's a good start, isn't it? A massive start, but we've got a bit of Jack Peacock Cup to talk about. But first, either of you boys got access to the weather gods at the moment? Are we actually going to see some cricket on a weekend? It's pretty frustrating, especially for you, Jason.
It's frustrating. I mean, coming from a Southern Peninsula club as well, where the grounds are, we haven't had quite the rain and they probably hold up better. It's been frustrating. We probably could have got on the last couple of weeks, but understand that some of the Frankston teams, pitches still are covered from footy. So, yeah, it's a tough one. I guess we're blessed that we're not on turf, who it looks like Kingy and I were saying they might not get on until Christmas. So, at least we've had a couple of games of cricket, but you just got to keep the boys up, ready to go.
Yeah, we're already a fifth of the way through the season, AJ, and we've only seen 2 rounds of cricket, both one days.
Yeah, look, I went down to Parkdale Cricket Club a few weeks ago. It was work sponsor them, obviously my boss living around the corner, and they couldn't even get a wicket up, and that was 2 to 3 weeks ago, and it's only got worse. So like you said, you got to feel sorry for the turf cricketers, but it's been that bad that synthetic has been affected in the last couple of weeks. But I guess where you look at it, it's been pretty annoying is that when you're watching Saturday and you're watching the Vicks play at the Junction Oval, and the commentators are saying that why aren't synthetic cricketers playing as it's sunny and all that. But like Jay said, I think, unfortunately, the problem occurs when the sand-based sort of grounds up in Frankston are the ones that are mainly affected, and the pitches are holding the water. Like I saw a photo from Tyab that you could have taken a canoe over there in the morning. So, yeah, look, hopefully, fingers crossed we get a game starting this week. But to be honest, not holding my breath.
Well, there's some more rain scheduled. I don't know if it's going to be the torrential rain we had last week, but, fingers crossed that it passes Thursday, Friday, and you get a good day Saturday and at least get a report to the grounds. That'd be exciting just to get to the ground to see whether we can get a game up and about.
And AJ's sick of housework too, Jason. I'm not sure if you know that, but he's absolutely filthy that he's got to perform on
I wouldn't mind if it gets washed off this week, because I'm actually heading down to Torquay after the game.
Right.
So if I could get down there a little bit earlier, that'll get me in the good books with the Dale, and also Anthony Boss and I might be able to get down to the Torquay pub a bit earlier.
I'm just glad our man's not renting at the moment, because you wouldn't be getting bang for your buck in a rental at the moment. You're never actually home. I'm convinced you don't actually know where you live.
Oh, the Dale's coming down. Yeah, so they're going to come down.
Do you say when it's rained off? Do you actually say that's happening?
Or do you just...
Are you more I've got to go to cricket, I'll see you at 6?
Unfortunately, I'll let her know. I'll let her know because Harry goes to the grandparents, so it might get a bit awkward if I don't tell them that I'm out.
My cricket has ruined a few people.
Yeah, it has. It's ruined a few relationships.
So is live streaming as well.
She's noticing that
she can always look up the live stream, and if I'm not there, I'm in a bit of strife.
The technology has crashed, but a bit like international cricket at the moment, all we've got to talk about results-wise are the T20s, and we'll start with Baden Powell, who were comfortably defeated by Old Peninsula, AJ.
Yeah, look, Baden Powell obviously have been a big factor in T20 cricket of recent years. Jason, you'll attest to this, and they've had a bit of a slow start. They obviously were well beaten by Peninsula in the first game. They bounced back against Sorrento, and then for them with their batting lineup to only make 111, that's probably not where they're looking to be at the moment. But as you said, Old Peninsula got over the line there, winning 6 down. So look, but it was 4 balls to spare, so I guess ground conditions as well, it might be pretty slow up at Baden Powell. Obviously, we're more noted to that, obviously being a quick ground. So with all the rain around, potentially that could be a factor. But Yeah, look, I think with their lineup, they were probably going to be fancied to be the T20 favourites.
Yeah, well, both teams have got a pretty good rep as far as the 2020 goes, and Saturday cricket as well,
Yeah.
of course. But it looks like it was probably a bit closer than what you first look at, because with 4 balls to spare, Juzzy Grant in the runs again. He's someone that really wants the rain to stay away, because he's in a rich vein of form at the moment. He's seen him pretty well, and same with Dylan O'Malley, who got him off to a flyer again. But it was the Ox, the old timer, who again came through with the goods with the ball. Time and time again, he's performed at big times, and 4 for 10 off 4 overs is a great return.
The coach's side of you's going, I'll take that. That's pretty handy.
Absolutely.
And now we go to Delican Park, who did get defeated by Mount Eliza. So, although I've had my troubles with the footy club, AJ, the cricket club's going beautifully.
Yeah, well, I was with Tommy Barron on Saturday night at a wedding, and he was pretty happy with how they're travelling this year. And Partha coming back in off an ACL, he's had a really good start to the year. But the other Sri Lankan that they picked up, he thinks he's probably better than Rashi at the moment. So look for him to really go deep into the season in the run tally. So look, they're getting back on the winners list. Obviously, last year was pretty tough up in Provincial. They've dropped down into Peninsula this year. They had a good win in the one-dayer, and now they've got themselves off to another good start in the T20s.
You don't make 83 in a 2020 too often in a losing side, do you?
Certainly not, no. But you'd think that you'd probably get a bit more than 133 as well if you've got one person.
Teammates let him down a little bit there, but 83 from Walker is a super knock. But yeah, the other 50 runs coming from the other 10 bats just wasn't enough. And yeah, it's good to see a few different names there as well, and those two teams in their 2020 outfits as well.
Absolutely. The Mount Eliza, I guess, new clothing standing out.
Must be it.
I like it. Yeah, Tommy was pretty happy with it on Saturday night.
Yeah, I like it. Let's move on to Heather Hill, who got over the line against YCW, and they're struggling a little bit at the moment. JSO, YCW, just in the early parts of the season.
Yeah, look, they lost this game, but they didn't lose any friends in the result, and it was a bit of a shootout when you have a look at it. Thinking Heather Hill's like pretty decent ground as well, size wise. Salerney for Heather Hill got a 50, but also Greenwood 56 for YC. He's I would say their best bat. So they actually, I thought, on score aside, sort of looked like they performed pretty well. And then, Sam Fulton, 4 for 33 was the star with the ball for them as well. But Heather Hill, quite deep their batting now. They've added a few blokes in there, which makes them deeper, both 2020 and Saturday cricket. So they'll be hard to beat in this, and also obviously on Saturdays too.
When you look at a side that is up and about, and the club usually has the depth through their seconds and thirds that a player can come in and replace someone in the first without really having to do much. And that's where I see Heather Hill at the moment. They've always got experienced guys in the seconds that can come in and play a role if they're needed. And you could probably look at their thirds and fours and pick out a few guys that would be able to come up and do that. So I think that's where Heather Hill have probably gained a bit more momentum this year with bringing a couple more into that first lineup. But they've always got those guys, like I said, on the edge that could be first cricketers in other sides. However, they stay at Heather Hill probably because of the culture and their club. So I think that's why they're going to be successful in the longer format, but also the T20s this year.
How's some of their T20 players as well? They've got Christian Miller hits it really clean. Jake Theobald, who's good with bat and ball, always pretty hard to get away as well. They've got some Levi McLaughlin-Dora as well is a fair recruit who also bat and ball. So
throw in Rob Salerney, as their marquee player who gets to go back and play with his brother. So that's pretty handy to have.
I think they've got a pretty handy 2020 side, and they'll be one of the teams right up there in a pretty tough division.
And don't forget Adi Hussain. He'll tell you he's the best T20 bowler in the whole world, not just the competition. So he'll certainly, obviously, someone of his calibre, obviously pretty handy to have in a side. But like I said, he'll make sure that he knows and tells everyone that he is the best bowler in the whole entire world, not just in Australia.
Well, if he's good at death bowling, we've got a few countries in the T20 World Cup that could use
Just
His
don't get him
services?
started on his wicket, getting Labuschagne out. So
Okay.
we'll keep that one.
We
under wraps.
won't, and we finish with an absolute ripper in this division with Mornington just getting over the line against Mount Martha. Jason?
Yeah, it looks like a tight one. It's with 10 needed off the last over, they've fell 2 runs short. That's a pretty exciting match there out at Mornington, and they marquee player for Mount Martha. Feels like they've got a lot of marquee players at the moment. They've picked up some really good recruits on Saturday cricket as well. But Steve Demonish, 50 for them, but just wasn't enough to get them over the line against Mornington. And yeah, that's a real derby game, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
We were down at Mornington training last week doing the cricket show, and I think it looked like they were pre-planning with their T20.
Yeah, it was.
There were certainly balls being deposited into the club rooms and things like that. But if there's any ground you want 10 to get off in the last over, it's probably Mornington, because you know that's going to race to the boundary, and you know it's not the biggest of ground square, so there's pockets there where you can certainly get over the rope. But yeah, a good win for Mornington, and they'll certainly be pretty happy that they knocked off Mount Martha, who are certainly next door neighbours.
And who would have thought wide Yorkers can work? I mean, it's extraordinary that it can happen.
That's the most forgotten ball in cricket, I'll tell you that.
Isn't it? Now, AJ, last season with the footy, we used to joke that Chelsea would play their best footy when we would rock up.
Yeah,
and it's fair to say Carrum Downs are starting to become that with the cricket. Round 1, it was a shock loss, and they went down this week too to Ballon Park.
Yeah, so Carrum, obviously with Sean Foster, getting 23.
And, Carrum, how good's my reading
and
going? It is Carrum. I apologise, Carrum Downs. My goodness.
Bundled out for 85 against Ballon Park, who make 183. So good signs for Ballon Park getting on the winners list, and it looks like going through Carrum's side that the regulars were in. I think they had the big lab Jacko Fry also playing as well. So a really good win to Ballon Park, and I think they'll take that. The confidence into the 2-day stuff as well, and it's not on the back of Pradeep De Silva as well, Jace, who you've probably seen a fair bit over the last couple of years.
Yeah, thanks to Foz and Carrum we've got Ballon Park this week, so it's good.
Thanks for
playing him into form, and see Pradeep got a start there as well. So we have seen a bit of. We saw 100 of him last year, but this year their runs have come more of a collective rather than on the back of him, which makes them fairly dangerous. Yeah, that 85 is a bit of an anomaly for me for Carrum. I don't think you'll see that too often. Sometimes you just have bad days. I also want to highlight Tommy Barron, who plays for Ballon Park. I've seen him play a fair bit of rep cricket. Leggy, really good bowler, and he'd be 15, maybe 16. He's got a lot of talent, and that's kind of what Ballon Park had lacked for a while there, that sort of age group of kids coming through, but Tommy's a good one.
Yeah, I like it. The analogy still works with our man Sean Foster. He's an honourable P favourite who just goes to another level when the cameras are out. Pretty easy week for Lang Warren, AJ, just up against the bye, so you'll take that anytime. So you're not in or out of form, but they've had a good start to the year, and my analogy about Carrum Downs did work. I just said it at the wrong time because they've gone down to my boys, the Pines.
Yeah, they haven't had a great start.
Get up and about the Cobras.
Carrum Downs, we thought that they're probably going to be obviously one of the sides who would win the majority of their games this year.
Would never tip against them this year was our man's quote that he's just conveniently left out.
In the first game and
completely jinxed them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Just one of the mozzes of the year.
Absolutely. So it went down to Pines. Obviously good to see Pines get on the winners list for the first time this year. And I think Carrum Downs, once they get their side settled in the longer format, I think that's where they'll probably be a bit more dangerous. Like I think on the weekend when I went through their team list, they started to have those guys filtering back in. So look, they want to be winning as many games as possible, but a really good thing for Pines to get on the board and also to have guys contributing with both the Jackson boys. You can always rely on a Jackson to do well for Pines.
Absolutely.
That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
A bit of a low scoring affair, but it looked like a pretty close one in the end as well, with Pines defending 105 just.
Yeah, you're not going to win too many T20 games defending 105, and we finally got a first this year, AJ. We still don't know who's the better Seaford side out of the Tigers and just the regular Seaford, because they've ended up in a literal tie.
Well, it's fair to say that the likes of like a Bonio and Rosebud, a Sereno and Rye, like a Ballon Park and Long Island, who just don't like each other on the field. Well, this is two teams that certainly also go along that motto. So, and to finish up with a tie at the end,
Unbelievable.
yeah, obviously both sides won't be too happy. And now they're not going to probably play each other. Obviously, this year not being in the same competition, so no one's got the bragging rights at the moment, Daz.
No boundary count back. Noticed that was interesting. That it's just left off as a tie.
Do we not do a bowl off at the end, or?
Nah.
I thought we used to.
An over? Like I thought we had a what's it called, a super over or whatever it is.
Anything that makes England cheat and get a win. It's just the way that T20 works at the moment. But
that used to happen because I remember that Sorrento had to go back up during the week against Red Hill and have a bowl off.
Yeah.
Because they didn't do it the week before.
Yeah.
Okay, why? Like, was the light that bad? Did they really go on too long? Is this where your hatred of the dark
I
came
can't
from?
remember why. I'm not sure. I can't remember why it was, but they had. There's three or four of the guys had to go up from Tuesday training or Thursday training and go back up to Red Hill and have a bowl off.
It's
And Paddy
extraordinary.
Hall hit the stumps. I'm
Yep.
sure
There
it
you
was
go.
Pat.
Paddy Hall hit it.
I'm sure it was Pat.
Because we did have it in a international T20. Pakistan, I remember, won the game by hitting the stump, something in like 2009, but bringing it back, I reckon. It's a good test of accuracy, I think. And we finish with Sky getting the job done over Long Island. Jason.
Yeah, that's the Sky team. I think that might be their first win for the year as well, and they've got added a fair few new names to their side. They were very competitive last year. Edra Singer in the runs, probably his first score for the year. He's a very good quality bat from Long Island.
It was the Edra Singer Cup as well.
It was too, yeah. I just noticed, against Long Island. And they generally last year bowled really good lines and lengths and a lot of variation, which makes them dangerous in a 2020. They play their ground pretty well, but I would have thought Long Island would have gone into that pretty heavy favourites. So it's a really good win for Sky.
Yeah, beautiful. I like it. AJ?
Yeah, good to see Dave Dervin back back in the competition and playing for Sky. So he picked up 2 for 13. And a really good victory. And to restrict Long Island to 110 after their 20 overs, that probably speaks more than them getting 130 for mine.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And like I said, that was pretty much all their bowlers last year had 2 or 3 different variations, which in 2020 cricket's priceless because it's hard to settle on anything the bowler's doing if that's the case.
Yeah, the unpredictability is your best friend in T20 cricket, as we know. And we finish with Germano, who got the job done over Red Hill, AJ.
Yes, obviously this game was brought forward because of the fact that there's a bye in the competition. So it's good to see Germana and Red Hill go up against each other. We know how big of a rivalry it is in footy. So really good to see that happen in the cricket side of things. Germana getting the victory. I don't think Simon Dart played for Red Hill, so a big out there. Cassidy, I'm led to believe, was their marquee player for Germana. He picked up 4 for. Word coming through from Neil Williams that Jack Fowler was out off the first ball of the game. So, and DI getting 39, so one shy of his age, I think, just about.
Dare I bring this up because I obviously had him at school, but I hope there wasn't a repeat of the Kingsley Di Gregorio catch from the other game.
It's a fair celebration, wasn't it?
I reckon he was off the ground for 2 seconds, and I got a message coming through. Oh, Kingsley, and it was a video of him catching it, and I haven't heard it. He hasn't stopped talking about it since. So I can't believe I brought it up again. But I hope there wasn't a repeat of that.
Well, it'd be interesting if it was, and that would be plastered all over social media. So they're the results that we do know. We're going to take a quick break and look forward to hopefully a week of cricket that gets underway. This is the MPCA show, brought to you by Bendigo Bank.
Everyone knows Australia has 4 big banks. But there's another big bank snapping at their heels. It's been around for over 160 years, has 1.9 million customers nationwide who bank in branch, online or with their mobile app, and is regularly voted one of Australia's most trusted brands. Who is this bank that has everyone's attention? Welcome to Bendigo Bank, the better big bank.
And we're back with the MPCA show brought to you by Bendigo Bank. Let's get straight into, again, hopefully a week of MPCA that gets off the ground. We begin with Provincial and we begin, Jason, with Lang Warren taking on Baden Powell.
Yeah, and 2 teams who have been right up there in the last couple of years. a couple of changes at Langy this year. Has seen a bit of a different personnel. Baden Powell, we kind of know what to get out of them. They've added Dale Elmy as well. That both teams, I think, off the top of my head, are 1-1 from the first 2 games. So this is that one of the proverbial double pointers, I suppose, because you'd expect both of these teams to be right amongst it at the end. Lang Warren probably don't have the same consistency in their batting and depth in their batting, but have a few stars in there who made runs last game. Whereas Baden Powell probably have a little bit more depth to their batting and bowling. So it's going to be a real interesting mix. The fact that it's at Lang Warren probably advantages them a little bit. They play that ground pretty well. I'll be interested to see what Kinga thinks.
Yeah, well, obviously back to one-day cricket. There's short-lived the 2-day stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Could say that again.
We haven't even had it.
I've got the red pills out at training 1 week so far, and that's it.
Well, back to white ball stuff this week, mate. But look, this is going to be a cracking game. I agree with you, Jace, that obviously Baden Powell probably have more depth throughout their first squad this year. I think Lang Warren obviously lost a couple, but they picked up a couple to replace them, but just not as many as what they sort of had go to other clubs. So I think, for mine, Baden Powell probably go in as favourite, but Lang Warren are only a Matt Prosser or a Chris Brittain performance away, like we saw a couple of weeks ago, from beating any side, to be honest. So I look at Lang Warren's bowling, and that's where they're going to have to be on their game this week against Baden Powell, because we know Baden Powell have the quality to make 230, and we've seen it a lot in one-day cricket. So for mine, I'll go with Baden Powell, but like I said, no reason why Lang Warren couldn't get the job done.
It's half sitting on the fence, but I'll accept it.
I'm happy with
Jason?
I'm going to lean towards Baden Powell. I'll also be interested. I haven't heard anything, but Bo Anthony's someone that was missing, I know, for the first few games. I think he's due back before Christmas, so hopefully for them he gets back pretty soon. He's an important player in that team, particularly the one-days as well. But I'm leaning towards Baden Powell on this one. I think I know more what I'm going to get from them.
Fingers crossed we get a little bit of disagreement as we go through, because I feed on that, AJ.
We'll definitely get some disagreement.
My goodness, let's go to the Pines. They're taking on Baxter at home. They have looked a bit better at home, even though they had that round 1 loss to Lang Warren. What do you think happens here, Jason?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, Pines.
One,
Pines coming off their 2020 win. It's always good to break the duck at the start, no matter what's 2020, whatever. So I still think they're a really super outfit in as far as the discipline in their team goes. They're really well led by a couple of blokes on that side. Baxter as well, very well led. They've got some just match winners, haven't they, Kingy? That can just take, particularly with the ball, I think this year, they've got a couple of guys that can take the game away. If Dan Warwick goes out early, although I think things in the change rooms change maybe a little bit, and that is probably something that they'll continue to work on. I think Quinn's been really good for them this year, and they've got some young guys coming through as well. But I think just with the star factor, I think Baxter. I'm going towards Baxter. But I think Pines will be a good match for them.
Oh, he's keeping it close.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really tight game. For mine, the batting's the key for both sides in this one. Whoever bats first, and if they can get to 140, then they're well and truly in the game, because both sides probably favour their bowling this year a fair bit. Obviously, you've got Billy Humphrey, Ricky Ramsdale, Paddy Jackson for Pines. Then you look at Baxter's bowlers with Yowie and Chamika. You've got Borthwick as well.
Borthwick's been good, yep.
They're going to rely on their bowling depth to probably get them through. And like you said, unfortunately, probably the batting rests too much on a couple of guys in both sides this year. You probably look at Dan Warwick and Toddy Quinn, and then also for Pines, you're probably looking at Chico and also Harley P. Sterling to get the run. So, like I said, whoever bats first, and if they can get 140 on the board, then that certainly gives that side confidence going into the second 40 of defending that.
I reckon if you bat first, make 140. That's a win for me in that game. Yep.
So you're backing Baxter to do so, or to chase down a lower
I'll
total
go Pines.
from the Pines?
No, I'm going Baxter.
There we go. There's the
Can we
disagreement.
not do the
want.
tips? That cost me a slab with Jugger the last year when we did the tips, so we won't do that. I was terrible.
No, that's okay. Well, we did.
Mitchell, Pines will be music to Pines' ears because I've just tipped Baxter. Yeah.
Absolutely, it will. We don't bet slabs, but we did have locks during the footy season, AJ, and it's fair to say that didn't work out.
No.
No, not at all. No, let's go to Red Hill versus Old Peninsula. And Old Peninsula, you think, would be favoured in this one, Jason? They've been pretty good to start the season.
They've looked pretty much how they finished off last year, really good. I've spoken on air before about how they've been really good at incorporating some of the young guys through that first team. They're doing it again this year. They've also had Dylan O'Malley in pretty hot form, and they've also had Juzzy Grant in pretty hot form. In fact, I think Juzzy's probably in as good a form with the bat that we've seen, and we all know how good he can be. So it's a real tough game for Red Hill. They've got, I believe, Brown is back. He played in the 2020. I think he's playing the Saturday cricket as well. Hits the ball really clean, good behind the jump as well. But yeah, we hate to say it, but that they'll be relying on dew and dart. I'm always a big believer that you don't want to give someone like Dart a total to chase because he's very, very good at batting exactly the right tempo all through the innings. He's a genius at it. We've seen it time and time again. That's their hope, I reckon, if they can get him in and chasing a total. But Old Peninsula, they're just really strong side. They're really well led. They're good in all aspects of the game, and I think they've got this one.
I think this one will be a lot closer than what we probably think. I think Red Hill beat them twice last year in the one days. I'm pretty sure they chased down 200 up at Red Hill. I think it was on the back of Darty. So look, I think you'll find that from now, Red Hill's side will be completely different to what they've put out in the first couple of weeks. I know that Brent Martin, Jamie McCall played in the T20. Also, like you said, Brown's back, and he'll go behind the jump and bat in the top order. So from there, their batting starts to look like it's got a lot more depth. You've got Dewey, Darty, Brown,
O'Connell,
O'Connell, Restine as well. If he's playing, it depends. So then you start to look through and you think, well, Red Hill have got a pretty good mix of 11 for one-day cricket now. Their bowling has probably been what's let them down. But if you throw in the likes, Glenn Collett, you've got Brent Martin.
Well, Clower's been doing really well.
Yeah, they're not probably relying on the part-timers as much, which they probably did in the first couple of games. So I think I can't tip against Old Peninsula, but like I said, Red Hill have done really well in the last couple of years against them, but I think Old Peninsula's class with guys like Juzzy Grant who are in red hot form, I think will get them over the line.
Speaking of red hot form, you can continue, AJ, because we finished with Long Island against your boys, Sorrento.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if they're my boys, Daz, because I haven't played cricket for a very long time. But Long Island.
We've got about 8 clubs, it seems like these days. So extraordinary the way.
I only ever played it too, Daz. So Long Island, Sorrento. I think for mine, Long Island were probably were a bit unknown because they've sort of turned over a few players this year. They've got some imports in, so we're kind of probably taking a couple of weeks for them to sort of see what they can do. Sorrento, obviously, they've lost a couple of games to Old Peninsula, and then obviously in the T20 last week, they'll be pretty disappointed with that. It's not often you see Sorrento sort of lose to a side in the sub-district competition. So they'll probably have something to come out and prove. I think, I think the guys with the bat, obviously they rely on, 2 to 3 guys. It's the same sort of thing. I think they've lost that depth as well. So they're going to be a bit unknown sort of going in up until Christmas, you'd probably see, because you've got the guys that who are going to perform, Jake Wood, Bobby, Corey, Jed Folk, but missing the depth of, Andy Libby, Matt Rulak's gone over to Casey, James Rulak's gone to Baldwin. It does sort of leave a hole in their side, I think. So the way that Sorrento probably have to do it with the ball relies on Jake Wood and Lee Jansen. So if those guys are tight and able to get a clump of wickets early, then that really puts them in the game. But the same thing on the flip side, if Long Island are able to break through the top order of Sorrento, then it really puts pressure on their middle to lower order, because they haven't done a lot over the last few years, because they've heavily relied on Bobby Wilson and Corey and Jed Falk. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's whoever can get through those first 10 overs with a white ball in the batting lineup. But I think for mine, I think I'll lean towards Sorrento, because I think they're bowling with Jake Wood in it. I think that he can probably do a bit more damage with a new white ball than Long Island can.
Yeah, I'm still trying to work out Long Island a bit, because they've had some changes to their team. McKenna at the top of the order is a really dangerous player. I apologise for the pronunciation, but Van Dijk has been a really good addition to that side.
Ask Neil. He reels it off every time.
Does he?
And in the accent.
Does he? He
Yeah.
goes with the
He's about 2 weeks away from getting cancelled, Neil.
I'm not sure it's right, but
Yeah,
he's going
he
with
says
it.
it with confidence, so it's got to be right.
Well, he's been an awesome addition to that side. I still reckon Tom Boxall's a gun with bat and ball, and one of the better players in the comp. Keep an eye out for young Jack Hay for them as well. He's a kid, 15 years old, I think. Bat and ball, he'll probably be more of a bat in the ones, but he is going to be a star, that guy. And I'm rapt to see him getting a game in the ones there as well. I'm actually leaning towards Long Island. I think they play their ground really well. I think they're not far away from gelling with the new combination. Sorrento will be happy with this, because I started to write them off sort of this time last year as well, and then I don't think they lost another game. But yeah, I think I'm going with Long Island on this one, King.
A little bit of disagreement. I like it. We're going to take a break and come back with the Peninsula Division. This is the MPCA show, brought to you by Bendigo Bank.
Everyone knows Australia has 4 big banks. But there's another big bank snapping at their heels. It's been around for over 160 years, has 1.9 million customers nationwide who bank in branch, online or with their mobile app, and is regularly voted one of Australia's most trusted brands. Who is this bank that has everyone's attention? Welcome to Bendigo Bank, the better big bank.
Established in 1988, Progress Signs has been servicing the local community for 30 years. Located on the Mornington Peninsula, they are the #1 destination for all your signage needs, specialising in a variety of signage from vehicles to shop fronts, occasional and corporate events, short-term, long-term and everything in between. If it's signs you need, be it large or small, Progress Signs is the place to call. Available 24/7 at progress-signs.com.au or call the team on 5975 9188. Thinking signs? Think Progress Signs, a station sponsor.
Battery World now open in Mornington.
We know batteries. We know our 75 D23Ls from our DIN 65 LHs. And we know which is best for you. We have the range and a spark no one else can match, because we live and breathe batteries. Those beautiful boxes and cylinders that power our lives and our passions. That's why we're the batteryologists. We're Battery World.
Battery World Shop 1, 43 Mornington Tyabb Road, Mornington.
Hello, I'm Roy Sanderson from RJ Sanderson and Associates. We have created a 10-step roadmap to recovery for businesses. To inquire or get a copy, go to our website rjsanderson.com.au.
A station sponsor.
Everyone knows Australia has 4 big banks. But there's another big bank snapping at their heels. It's been around for over 160 years, has 1.9 million customers nationwide who bank in branch, online or with their mobile app, and is regularly voted one of Australia's most trusted brands. Who is this bank that has everyone's attention? Welcome to Bendigo Bank, the better big bank.
And we're back with the MPCA show brought to you by Bendigo Bank. We're into the Peninsula Division now. We're going to kick things off with Dramana and Heather Hill. AJ, Dramana, they got the Tuesday off due to the bye, so they'll be, well, we'd like to say fresh, but no one's played for a fortnight on a Saturday.
Oh, well, Dramana played against Red Hill. Don't forget.
Oh, they did, yep. Lang Warren had the bye, did. How well am I going tonight, by the way?
You've had an absolute mad night, Dave.
The fresh air outside is frying me. My goodness.
So we'll look after you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, don't worry.
I'll book you in for shoulder surgery, both of you.
You'll keep copping it. Dramana and Heather Hill. This is set up to be a really good game. I think Dramana, they're another side that we're going to be a bit unknown because obviously Jack's Fowler's moved back into Premier Cricket, and also sort of changed their side a bit. They've got a couple of imports in. Dale Irving's come in and probably given them a bit more experience. I think is probably what they probably lacked a little bit of. They sort of relied on their younger stars. I know Kieran's 32 now, but that's still quite young in the cricket scenes. So I think like I said, set up to be really good in a one-dayer. But for mine, I can't go past Heather Hill. I think they've just got such a well-rounded side. And when you've got Stevie O'Donnell back, Addy Hussain with the ball, we've got Levi McLaughlin-Dora at the top of the order, or can bat through the middle. He chimes in with his offies. And I just see that their dynamics work really well. Their batting and bowling's really well sorted, I think. And I think with Dramana, if you could just sneak a few early wickets, then it really does put the pressure on this year. And obviously, it gives guys more, I guess, of a role to play for Dramana, because Kieran's done really well in the first few games, but it'd be interesting to see what happens if he does go out a couple of times early. But like I said, if you've got a side with DI and those sort of the likes, they're going to be a strong outfit. But Heather Hill, I think, will be too strong.
Yeah, I hate to agree with Kingy on this one. I think I really rate what Heather Hill have done the last couple of years, but their recruiting has been, it seems to be quite targeted, and they've added a couple of great guys to it. Levi McLaughlin-Dora and Cassano as well from Baden Powell, who can definitely bat. I've seen that firsthand. So Heather Hill, I think, just have too many guns right across their team. Firepower really in that side. We spoke about before about how their 2020 side is shaped up pretty well. It's just the 40 over cricket's the same thing. So I think I'd lean towards them. Kingy's right. Any team that has DI and Kieran Vocal and I hope Jai Vocal's playing as well. I really rate his bowling. He turns the ball, gives it flight. All the things I couldn't do as a bowler.
You're not the only one, mate.
I rate his bowling. But, look, I'm leaning towards Heather Hill on this one as well.
You can get away with anything at Main Ridge, Jace. You can drop a few stones on the pitch. No one goes out up that high in altitude to go and watch cricket, mate.
I don't know what's going on with the old tech over here, but I promise you the next game's Mount Eliza and Flinders, AJ.
Oh, well, I hope so. I hope you haven't had another mare.
No. But the tech's letting me down, but that's not. No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I promise you.
So this is going to come down to probably, once again, it's going to be Tommy Barron and Nick Barron. I think, and it's not to disclude the other guys, but I think those two come up against Kane Hawkins and Sam Gove, and it's who can take that breakthrough early, I think. If Tommy can get through Kane Hawkins and get Gove in and potentially get him out early as well, then it really does put pressure back on the Flinders. So that's where I see the main sort of matchup going in that one. We've seen Mount Eliza this year, and over the past few years, they've probably not been as well performed with the bat, but they're starting to get off to a lot better starts with Opatha at the top, and he's got a few runs under his belt, and they're starting to put a few more scores of that 140 on the board, and they look like they're going to probably do that consistently. They've had a good win in the T20 during the week. So for mine, I think Flinders in a one-day game will just be a little bit too strong with the firepower of Kane Hawkins. Matty Gale has been back as well. You know, Blake Hogan-Keogh, and Sam Gove in the lineup. So I think they'll just get over the line in the one-dayer. But, you know, like I said, it's going to take a big effort from Tommy Barron and Nick Barron and the likes to hopefully get through a few early polls from Mount Eliza.
Good to see me having a man starting to get contagious now.
You're back.
With
You're
AJ
back.
stumbling, mate. We're back. We're flying at the moment. But do you agree?
Sammy Gove's come off 138 in a school match in a 2020 yesterday, so he's seen him okay.
What school's he playing against? Extraordinary.
Regional level as well. So
Wow.
It was a pretty good standard match.
Good on him.
Yeah, but Kane and Sam, I'm not sure how much they've faced against a bowling lineup like Mount Eliza. It's a little bit different where they very much just strangle teams. Tommy Barron, as we know, would just hit a 20-cent piece the whole time. His brother's pretty similar. So I'll be very interested to see this score actually at the end, because no matter where they bowl it, those two will go at them. But if they do happen to take a couple early poles, you know, Flinders batting, I think, it drops off pretty quick, unless Scales playing, and he's a really good bat in their lineup as well. And then Mount Eliza, we mentioned before, have added a couple of good bats with what's the guy who just made 50 in the 2020? Apatha, yeah, sorry. Apologies to him. He
Memorable 50, that one.
it looks, well, you two are having a shocker, I thought.
Yeah, why not jump in there?
A lob a grenade in as well.
We're a family here.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, but I'm leaning towards Flinders on this one as well. I think they have a lot of firepower for a 40-over game. And, yeah, if those guys in particular at the top of the order fire how we know they can, then Mount Eliza might be chasing a fair bit of
If the ground's a bit wet too, then that really nullifies the ability for Tommy and the bowlers to swing the ball. And that plays into the hands of Hawkins and Gove, who can probably hit through the line a bit more. Whereas if they were lining up in a two-day game with a red ball, then that's where it sort of can lead to trouble, especially with guys that, you know, put it on a 20-cent coin, you know, ball after ball, and that's where it does trouble the guys who want to go after it a lot harder.
Yeah, it really would. Let's go to Mornington and Muradoc. Jason, how are you seeing this one?
Yeah, good. Another good question.
That's two. I'm back.
One.
I'm telling you.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Look, I think Mornington are just starting to find their feet again after being relegated. Sometimes, like, it can go either way when you're relegated. You can kind of go back and assert yourself in the new division, or you can. Some teams just find it really hard after being relegated to come back from that. But Mornington, I think, are just starting to settle, starting to understand what they need to do in that competition to be successful. There's a couple of guys now who are really stepping up for them, and yeah, I'd think Mornington, especially at Alexandra Park, will be favourites in that game. Certainly for me, they are.
Yeah, I have to agree with Jace on that one. I think the one-day format probably suits Mornington at the moment with the way that they play, and when you've got a guy like Shane Hockey can get you off to a flyer on a ground that runs pretty quickly. I think they'll be too strong. And I think it was Young Moon who we saw at training getting it through pretty well with a ball. So I think he can do some early damage, and then you got... It depends on what Bryce McGain's schedule is, but potentially if he's playing, then that will obviously help Mornington a fair bit.
Yeah, the only scouting note I've got from Mornington's training is if you're going to Alexandra Park and you're in any kind of mid-wicket area, just have your wits about you. That's all I'm going to say. That's where they're being deposited to. Let's go to Seaford Tigers and Somerville. Bit of alliteration going on to finish off eventually here. AJ, how do you see this one?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, Somerville were probably the favourites going in, and not a lot of cricket's happened this year, so I think they're 0-2 at the moment. Yep. They'll be pretty nervous coming up against Seaford Tigers, who I think on the other side are 2-0. So, yeah, look, I think this will be a really good contest at Seaford Tigers. So, yeah, look, and it's going to be interesting, and something we probably haven't touched on is if we do get some rain, you know, Thursday, Friday, what the lineup's going to be like, because we've seen a lot of Premier cricketers coming back and playing for their home sides. So if that's the case once again and Premier does get called off early, then, you know, the Sunwell side then gets pretty stacked, doesn't it? They've had, you know, 3 or 4 guys about to come back. So I think Sunwell will get off the mark in this game, and I think they're too good of a side to let another one slip.
Yeah, 0-2, but if they do go 0-3, we also got to remember it's 0-3 after 4, which is even worse because you're not going to have that game to kind of kick things off. But to use one of your expressions before, Jason, they've got to break the duck, Somerville.
Yeah. And Seaford don't want to break the duck.
Yeah.
So, the Seaford Tigers, I have a massive amount of respect for what they've been able to do from a moment where their name was almost penned into being relegated to where they are now. It has been superb, and we spoke for quite a lot of years about Seaford Tigers. The same sort of 3 guys were the main guys. For a while that was Corey Hand and Dave James, and Mash Mills was the other one as well. But now they've got a whole bevy of guys who can make runs each week, who are taking poles each week, and I think they're a real danger in this competition now. Somerville, yeah, they would have been stewing. I think they dropped the game at Flinders where they sort of made 230. They'd be shattered about that. They are a quality outfit, but they're playing in Seaford Tigers, who are also a quality outfit at Seaford Tigers. And just because it's at Belvedere, I'm kind of leaning towards Seaford Tigers, but there is a lot of talent in that Somerville lineup as well. These are 2 teams that may well play each other when it comes to finals.
Yeah, this is going to be a cracker. Let's take a break. We'll do the district division next. This is the MPCA show brought to you by Bendigo Bank.
The Mornington Peninsula Bowls region asks you to check out why lawn bowls in the Mornington Peninsula is just for you. It's fun, it's social, and it's affordable. That's right, it's fun, it's social, and it's easy to learn. There are over 25 bowls clubs on the Mornington Peninsula which offer free lessons and the free use of bowls. Get on the green now. Lawn bowls on the Mornington Peninsula is more than just a game. Station sponsor.
And welcome back to the MPCA show brought to you by Bendigo Bank. We kick off the district division with Rosebud and Hastings, Jason.
Yeah, it was good to know you a little bit more personally during that 20-second break as well, Daz. Thanks for that. Rosebud versus Hastings. Yeah, we got to see Rosebud firsthand the 2020 last week. We've spoken about their bowling for a while now. Their bowling looked really well. Claven was really getting through the crease well and letting them go at a good rate. And then, you know, the 2 Nagel boys bowled really well too. So, they had a spinner that came on and I thought did a really good job bowling kind of straight spinners, which takes plenty of poles. But I thought he was really good as well and just broke up the quicks. They've obviously had a good lot of quicks for them for a while now, so that spinner will help. And then Kane Donald's in the form of his life at the moment, both not just with the bat, but also behind the jump as well. So I think Rosebud have way too much firepower for Hastings. Hastings are still trying to work out their identity, having lost pretty much half, maybe more than half their side and getting some new recruits in, still feeling their way around. And I think Rosebud just have a little bit too much class for Hastings.
Does it count as unorthodox spin if it doesn't spin? Because it's actually quite unorthodox for a spinner to not spin the ball. Does that make sense?
That needs to be aimed at Jason.
Okay.
He can tell you.
Yeah, I've never turned one in my life. And yeah, well, let's call that unorthodox. Yeah.
I like it. Thoughts on this game, AJ?
Yeah, Rosebud, pretty easy for mine.
Yeah, I am the number 2 ticket holder at Hastings this year. They're going to have my support all the way through, but might be a rough one,
I think it could
unfortunately.
be, unfortunately, a very low score if Rosebud bowl first.
There we go. And now, you guys will know the history better than me. Is there any kind of name for this contest? Karen Down? There should be.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what.
Nothing off the top of my head, but
I'm sure,
we can think of something.
I'm sure in the change rooms between both sides there is Daz, but yeah, this one's going to be a cracker. Obviously, Karam have been a bit up and down, and then Karam Down's the same as well. So they're sort of going
hard to
in.
play cricket when you've been mozzed. So
yeah, they're sort of going. And the hard thing is, like, sides are going in without having played too much cricket. Like, that's the hard thing to go off. There's not too much form to sort of write about. Obviously, we had the T20s during the week, but anything can happen in a T20. But being at Karam, yeah, look, I think for mine, I'll lean towards Karam being at home. I think that Sean Foster and these of the likes probably pose more of a danger than the Carrum Downs lineup in terms of their batting. Whereas Carrum Downs, if they're going to win the game with their batting, it's more on a group sort of effort. They'll get themselves to 150, 160. Whereas if Foz gets in a one day at home, like there's every chance then that 160 that I mentioned for Carrum Downs, but for Carrum, if Foz is in, that can go from 160 to 200 pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, Daz, there's not a lot of love lost between these two sides. It'll be pretty hotly contested. Yeah, and both teams kind of mixed form, and it's hard to say that as we haven't played a lot of cricket. But yeah, and I think Foz I think he might be coming off a globe, and I've seen that before. And yeah, always pitied the sides that faced him after that. Both teams have some super players. Carrum Downs, obviously Waterfall. I think Harford's still there this year. They've got a lot of talent right through, but Carrum have some real proven performers. They've also got a couple of good kids coming through as well. Jake Diatri's been, I think, really good as a leader there as well, and he's backed that up with some form on field. So again, I'm going to have to agree with Kingy on this. I'm leaning towards Carrum again, largely on the back. It's at Roy Dore. Hopefully they get a game up there, and I think Carrum will win.
It's not looking good if we get more rain with their T20 game moved during the week. And
yeah,
for someone that said that they were going to tip Carrum Downs every week,
yeah, you've now gone 2 in a row without
jumped
doing
off.
it. So, yeah,
it's been noted at Carrum Downs,
hasn't it? Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely. Skip in. Crib Point v Main Ridge, Jason. Next up.
Yeah. We had a good hit out actually last Saturday because our ground was okay, and we got a few of the Main Ridge boys down and had a really good 2020 match down there, and got to see a little bit of Main Ridge's English recruits, and certainly Harry Nunn, he's the wicket keeper they've got, was really good with the bat, hit the ball really well. He'll make runs this year in MPCA, and Gaz Wyatt just brained him. It was like the Gaz of old, actually. So there's a couple of guys coming into this game, I think, having picked up some form at Bonio last week. The Cribby side, they seem to have gelled a fair bit better this year. They've also added a few guys to their mix, which has, I think, generated a fair bit of excitement around the club. They still rely on a couple of the usual suspects. And I think this will be a really close game. I think last year Cribby might have turned over Main Ridge when they were probably a little bit lower on the ladder from memory. Being at Cribby again, I think is a pretty big advantage. But yeah, I've got to stick with Main Ridge on this one.
Won't be allowed into Main Ridge if he goes against the yeah, I'm actually going to go with Crib Point in this one, being at home. I think the reasons why I look at Crib Point being dangerous this year, that they're starting to make scores of like 180 or like 160, 180. They've probably more done that off the back of their bowling in recent years. But they've got guys, especially in the one-day format, that prove really tough customers for the opposition bowling lineup. And I think that they'll be too strong at home. And sort of Main Ridge, once again, they've sort of got a few new guys coming in, guys playing different roles now. Probably lost a little bit of firepower with the ball. So that probably, is why I head towards Crib Point. And I just think in the one-day format, it'll probably suit them a bit better.
And we finished the division with Seaford taking on Dellicum Park, and we get to talk about Dellicum Park without Nilo reminding us of how much he bought their stock in the pre-season.
Yeah, I'll tell you
He
what.
did buy a lot of Dellicum stock, actually.
Didn't he? Yeah. So sure there's none left, actually.
Not sure what he's bought more of, Dellicum Park or wine. So, no, look, I think Dellicum Park have probably been underestimated a bit. They're always there. They're always probably around that. They're always the third or fourth position, and they always do well. Seaford, we saw sort of let one slip a couple of weeks ago when we were at Seaford. Like, to be honest, they had Carrum Downs in a really good position to run through them. But like I said, the one-day format poses a lot of challenges with these sides with a lot more new players in it, and also the way that guys have sort of had their roles have to be changed. I mentioned it on air at the Seaford game. It was Seaford and Carrum Downs, and both opening bowlers bowled out straight away.
Yeah.
And they were probably both their most experienced bowlers, and it changed the game because they had nothing left. Whereas in the back end of the game, that's where both sides let it slip. Seaford, to be honest, they were 5 for 50. Ryan Lynch had bowled out, and they go on to make a fairly decent score. A fairly decent score. And then in the back end as well, Carrum Downs were under a fair bit of trouble. In a fair bit of trouble there, and Brad Lockhart got away with 98 not out just because they couldn't turn to Wilson, who probably did the bulk of the bowling up top and nicked off a few early. So I think captains will have to do a fair bit of changing of plans, and they probably, if you've only got 4 or 5 guys that are going to do the majority of the bowling, they're going to have to change the plans up. On the back of that, I think I'm going to go with Delacombe Park in this one. I think their form's probably just been a little bit stronger.
Yeah, just on the back of what Kingy's saying, my worry for Seaford in this game is the firepower that Delacombe have, and that Seaford's bowling was not there. They won the premiership, obviously, so very good, but that was on the back of their batting predominantly. Their bowling, especially Walker coming off 80 odd in the 2020, and Joel Malcolm's in good form. He just holds the innings together, and same with Johnny Guthrie. He's a really good one-day player as well. He sort of can hit in some strange spots, and I think that Delacombe Park's batting will have the wood over Seaford's bowling. While Seaford are a good batting side, I think there's enough in the tank for Delacombe Park to hold them a little bit, and in that regard, I'd have to pick Delacombe Park.
Just with that, Jason, obviously being coach and you speaking to your captain a fair bit, how have you felt with the one-day cricket and how, I guess, guys have had to be managed with their bowling loads in terms of, obviously you've got a couple of guys that would majority bowl 8 overs straight. It's definitely with a red ball. But how have you had to work in with Bealey and the guys to sort of change the plans a bit? Because it has been hard. Like, guys have probably been used to bowling a fair bit up front and just going through with it. But I've found that once you've got a bit of inexperience through the middle in these one-day games in the last couple of years, and definitely this year is probably been more evident than ever, that you probably have to change what you've done in the past.
Yeah, I think the key to it is to be, flexible and adaptable, and your bowlers have to be ready to go at any point in time. Like even the slowies, they'd be ready to come on even at the start. We've got Cam, who's 708 years old, so we've got to look after him a little bit, but he just keeps going and going. But yeah, I think the key is that you keep everybody. Like, we've probably got 7 or 8 blokes who could be tossed the ball at any time, and it's making sure that you're picking the right guys for the right situations, and having that flexibility is pretty good. And I think the bowlers we've got now are pretty much prepared for any kind of situation. Well, they've certainly been trained that way for any situation. And I think more and more you have a look at the really good sides up in provincial, and which all the teams aspire to be like, and the POBs and Baden Powell. They've got all of that as well. Like they just have bowlers that can bowl at any time. Their plans can change. Ox has talked about it a lot. How it's from game to game, situation to situation. The bowling can change at any time.
I like it. Let's take our final break, and when we come back, we're going to do the sub-district division of the MPCA. This is the MPCA show brought to you by Bendigo Bank.
Everyone knows Australia has 4 big banks. But there's another big bank snapping at their heels. It's been around for over 160 years, has 1.9 million customers nationwide who bank in branch, online or with their mobile app, and is regularly voted one of Australia's most trusted brands. Who is this bank that has everyone's attention? Welcome to Bendigo Bank, the better big bank.
Welcome back to the MPCA show brought to you by Bendigo Bank, and it's only fair that we let the special guest take the first game.
Absolutely.
AJ, considering it's his, up against Ballon Park?
Yeah, well, we've been kind of itching to play because we've built some good momentum up in the first couple of games. Bellum Park turned us over last year. We bowled really poorly to them early on, and Pradeep hit us to all parts of Borneo Oval, and we batted really well against them. But that first 10 overs was the key. I think we've really learnt from that game on. We've really learned about our cricket. We're really excited to welcome. I'm going to call him Sri. I'm not going to go with the surname, but our Sri Lankan recruit. He's been super around the club since he's arrived, and boy, he looks like he can play a bit too.
He had a really good drive against Rosebud, and I thought, he's
got something.
He made us all look forward really in the nets last night. So we're keen to just get him out there because he seems like a really good fella. And otherwise, the selection's real tight at the moment, which is really what sort of I aim for when I got to the club, is to make that. We've got some disappointed people each week. But we're just hoping that we can stick to our game plan and really work together as a unit. We understand that to win games we have to play really disciplined cricket, and so far so good. Ballon Park present a really big challenge. Obviously, it's not just Pradeep anymore. Audie's really good with the ball. They've got a couple of guys in there. Their captain, Joel, is really good. So they're a dangerous team, and we're playing them at Ballon Park, which is, from all accounts, pretty quick. So that really helps, I think, a couple of their bats too. So, I'm really excited for the next challenge, and Ballon Park certainly present that.
Yeah, if I was a betting man, Adrian, I'd be comfortable. I know you've had to put your house on the line a couple of times, but I think we know who the great man's going to tip in this one. I think that's pretty fair.
Well, I'd hope he is if he's coaching the club. He's back in Bendigo. But
although I never tip Richmond in the footy because I always think I'm going to jinx them. But no, I'm on the Pandas.
Yeah, I'm just for all purposes, I'm going to go with Ballon Park in this one.
This is why I'm in the middle right now.
I think
we like that, by the way. Yeah, we keep tipping the other team.
I can't agree with Jace on this one, especially. But I think off the back of Pradeep. And the way he goes about it at Ballon Park, it just makes him even more dangerous. And I think that, like Jason said, they've not just relying on him anymore. They now have 11 guys that contribute every week. In the past, when they slid right down from provincial all the way through, they probably always had 2 to 3 guys that were really good cricketers, but they had a lot of guys that were probably forced to play a lot of first 11 cricket that weren't up to it. You now look at their squad, and they've got depth in the seconds. And their seconds are doing well, so I think that bodes really well for Ballon Park. In terms of their season moving forward, and that's why I think they'll be really good in the one-day format. Like Jace mentioned, you got Pradeep, Anthony, Joel, you got David Cross playing as well, who's as dangerous with a bat as anyone on his day. So I think, Ballum at home just prove that they're going to be difficult to beat against anyone.
I'll just have to play mediator once the camera gets turned off, I'm sure. But, AJ, we go to Pearsdale and Mount Martha. Both teams will want to be getting, I think, a second win on the board from memory. I think Pearsdale's won a game, haven't they?
No, they haven't.
Okay. Yeah.
So Mount Martha...
Don't trust the memory, Daz.
Mount Martha have done really well this year. I think they're 2-0.
Yeah, sure are.
So, Daz, you've had another howler there. But also... I think what Mount Martha have done is they've brought in some top end talent.
Oh, they sure have.
To go with the younger guys who have now played 2 to 3 years of senior cricket, and I think that's really standing out. Stolworthy, you've got Simon Street, Chris Holcomb. There's 3 guys that have played a lot of senior cricket, and you throw in the guys, the younger guys who are now being able to learn off them. We've seen Mount Martha, when they've had their struggles, they've probably not had that experience around the younger guys. Mitch Darville probably put that on his shoulders a fair bit when he was playing. Interesting to see that he's playing in the seconds. I wonder whether they can get him back into playing in the ones. But, I think for Mount Martha, too strong. I think they've got... they're getting contributions from anyone. They've been in tough positions in some of the games, and they've got themselves out of it. So I think that's why they're going to be a big factor in the sub-district this year going forward.
Yeah, we played Pearsdale last game, and they had us on the ropes for a little while there, and on the back of their bowling was really good. All sort of their quicks were were right on the money. Scoville really impressed me. Swainston, I think, is one of the best bowlers in the comp, and nips it around a fair bit as well. They were really good with the ball. Their batting is based around Blake Eklund, and if you haven't watched him bat yet, do yourself a favour. Just probably the one guy I've noticed in subbies that manipulates the field a bit. You don't see that too often in the subbies. So he's real quality. So they're better than their 0 and 2 suggests, but they're coming up against the Mount Martha side, as you've mentioned, a lot of those names. I don't even think Jake Smart's been playing. Stallworthy, from all I heard, has been fantastic. Walker's been a really good addition to their side as well. They've got the Vemis boys, Finn and Mikus, who have a lot of talent, and again, I love to see them being incorporated into that senior squad. They played last year, of course, too. So with that in mind, I think Mount Martha are going to be one of the better teams in the comp. So me tipping them is no disrespect to Pearcedale, because I think Mount Martha will be right up there.
And we go to, you're on a roll, mate. We'll go to Sky and Frankston YCW. He's going to another level in his own division on point.
He loves it.
Yeah, I've seen a few of these.
It's extraordinary the form our man's in to finish.
Well, look, both of these teams I haven't seen too much, and I say that with Sky in that they've changed a lot of their personnel, but I know that their wicketkeeper they've included into their side is batting really well, and also Edera Singer, it's just a matter of time before he makes runs. I think both of these teams are 0 and 2.
Don't ask me for my memory.
And Frankston haven't, had a great start to their subbies. Jack Greenwood making runs in the 2020 comp will be a real boost for them too. At Sky, I really rated what I saw from Sky last year. They've added a couple of good bats to it. Pereira's one of the better bats in the comp as well. I think I'll lean towards Sky in this one. Yeah,
I think I'll lean towards Sky as well at home. I think the keys into this game is, once again, the Frankston YCW batters need to stand up. But they're coming up against Sky and their bowling, who's probably changed a fair bit this year. So they need to stand up and do really well with the ball. That's probably where they've let themselves down this year. So I think if the YCW batters get on top, then that's where they can certainly get an advantage and get themselves to 150, 160, and they'll certainly be able to defend that if that's the case. So I think I'm going to lean to Sky at home. I think they can probably just be a bit more damaging with a bat.
Beautiful, I like it. And we go to Rye and Tyre, AJ?
Yeah, well, Rye's certainly impressed this year, knocking off Sereno in the T20, and they've certainly become a much better side. We've mentioned that with a number of sides that we've spoken about before, that they've now got young kids that have probably played 50 to 60 senior games. So they've got a lot more experience in that lineup on the back of Jordan Blades doing a really good job down there. And I can't go against Tyre, but I think they're going to be one of the better sides in the competition. A really well-rounded side, and I think they'll be too strong in this one.
Yeah, I agree with what you said about Rye. They've got some pretty good kids coming through it. It'll be interesting whether Thulis plays from again. If with no turf cricket, he might be half a chance. He's the one that butchered the first over in that Sorrento game. But I'm a bit with Kingy on this. Tyre, for mine, are going to be one of the teams to beat. They were last year. They've just added to that team as well, with Taylor coming in. Pateman at the top of the order, I think he gets a bit undervalued actually, because he's one of the better bats in the subbies and can turn the game away from you. And that's not even in mentioning some of those other guys in their side that are like Holland Birch is one that springs to mind, who's pretty. Not pretty. He's very talented, and I think they'll just have a bit too much experience for Rye.
If we get a downpour, tomorrow and Friday, well, there's every chance Nick Taranto might slip back into that Tyre lineup. So that makes them even stronger.
And like you said, what a strength that would be. And we finish with Balnarring taking on. Am I allowed to say they're your guys still, AJ, or is that still fair?
Yeah, if you want.
Okay,
yeah, why not? Yep.
Well, you said that with conviction, didn't you? But go for it, AJ.
I'm just an RPP person now, mate.
Yeah, I like it.
I'll get around to some of the clubs, have a beer with them. That's all my
just anywhere
to go to.
As long as the club's shouting.
Yeah, absolutely. Just underneath AJ's RPP, it'll just say anywhere but home.
Balnarring have been red hot. We've mentioned them from the start. it's we're going to go with it again, Daz.
Zero to hero?
Oh yeah, I think they're going to be 0 to hero in this competition. They've got guys that are just as damaging with both bat and ball in their lineup. Hewitt boys, they've been on fire early. Jackson Hanna, and and once again, the thing with their side this year is that they've added some top end talent to go with a number of young kids who have probably played 40, 50 senior games now. So it's not just the fact that they've got 3 top end talent and that's it. They've brought them in to play with, like we're saying, Jackson Hanna and guys like that who have been the mainstays of the Balnarring side. Brenton Taylor as well. He'd only just be 30. So I think they're going to be too strong in this one with both bat and ball. And I think they've posted 200 or close to 200 in both games. So I think Tookarook need to be on, and for Tookarook, it's going to probably rest on Bobby Parslow doing some damage with the new ball. And on the flip side, I think they've got to have a couple of guys at the top of the order stand up against Balnarring and their side. But I think when you've got the likes of the Hewitt boys in the touch that they are, I think it'd be too strong.
Yeah, well, Balnarring have been involved in a couple of real shootouts, and that's what they want. They've got a lot of firepower, so that if Tookarook want any chance, they really need to lock down, and not even if they're not taking poles, they need to try and defend as much as they can, and not probably get too aggressive. But Balnarring, like we've mentioned it all season, they've recruited so well, and now that's just provided some great depth. And the names you mentioned, you even mentioned Mark Wallace, who was their, I think, leading run scorer last year. He had a great year, and there's some guys now in the twos who've probably really disappointed. They're playing in the twos, and they had the Shepherd boys as well, who add that to the mix. So there's a lot of depth there. Yeah, Tookarook, they have to go real hard in this game. I think. Yeah, they've sort of come off finals last year. They'll definitely would have thought before the season started they were playing finals this year, and if they're wanting to do that, these are the sort of games that they really need to take up to teams like Balnarring and the Mount Martha that we've spoken about as well.
Yeah, there's been some limited disagreement throughout the night, guys, so we'll just end with something we can agree on wholeheartedly. Ireland have beaten England by 5 runs in the T20 World Cup, so cop that, Poms. And this has been a fantastic show. I think our man gets the 3 votes tonight. AJ gets the 2, but let's be honest, it's by default because Daz has had a stinker. He's lucky to get 1, probably -2 at this point.
We'll be at the Balnarring Tookarook game this weekend for the match of the day, brought to you by Bendigo Bank.
We absolutely will. So your feedback for Daz, you don't need to put it in the comment section. Jump down to Balnarring. You can tell me in person. That's fine. I know where I'm at. And hopefully you can join us next week for, let's be honest, Daz's redemption, AJ. But hopefully you can join us for the MPCA show brought to you by Bendigo Bank. We'll see you then.